So for assignment 1, what I've decided to do is take out 2 of my jumper cables, a red and a black, 2 of my LEDs, my red and my yellow, and my bead board. And I've also got a normal 9-volt battery. Just ask your mom for that, you can get it. And before we start, what I wanted to do was describe one really important law that's out there. It's actually called Ohm's law, and it's spelled O-H-M'(S) law. That's Ohm's law. And what Ohm's law is, it's very simple. It's this equation: I equals V over R. And what that means is that I is current, V is for volts, and R is for resistance. And why that's so important is because we need to know this law for all of our electronics. It's the simplest of laws in electronics, but it's the most important one because it allows us to understand the relationship between volts, resistance, and current. So, to start, what I want you to do is take your 9-volt battery, and 9 volts, this would be the V in the volts, and what I want you to do is just place the battery very gently on the tip of your tongue. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and pause the recording if you need to, and after you've done that, come back. Great, so you're back, and hopefully what you got was a little bit of a shock on the top of your tongue. And with that, the reason is that because that if you look at the equation and you said that current is equal to 9 volts over, and let's say the resistance was 0 or close to it, well, what's the current? The current becomes infinity. And that is a bad equation. If you end up doing that to your tongue, it hurts. But if you end up doing it to something like the Arduino board, it's going to fry it out. So we have to be careful about that, and that's what we're going to look at during our very first session here. So to start, what I want to do is I want to look at this bead board. And the cool thing about bead boards is that if I make a point here, that all these rows are connected internally, even though you can't see it. So if I actually connected my red here to my red here, those are actually connected. They're on the same exact connection. And we'll see how that works in a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red LED and I'm just going to put it onto 2 of the different pieces on the bead board. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red for positive and plug it in where the longer of the stems of the LED was. And I'm going to take my black and plug it in where the shorter of the LED stem was. And with that, I can now come over here and take the red to the positive and the black to the negative. As you can see, my LED lights up. And that is our first experiment. But now if we take this off and we flip these around, as you can see, I'll flip this one over to the negative and the black to the positive, it does not light up. And the reason is because these LEDs require that the electricity goes from positive to negative. I'm going to try a different experiment here. I'm going to take this red one out, I'm going to put it down, I'm going to put the yellow one in, and I'm going to ask you not to do this at home. And I'm going to plug the red into the positive and the black into the negative. I don't know if you saw that, but very carefully there was no light that went on. And the reason is because this LED is actually rated for only 5 volts. So I don't know if you can see, I'm going to hold it up really close. There's actually a little black spot inside the LED. And the reason that is because I've burnt this out. So there's a good reason, a good example of why you need to be very careful about Ohm's law, that certain pieces of electronics can only handle certain types of volts. And if you put too much voltage or too much current across a certain type of circuit, you're going to blow it out or shock it. So that's just a good example. Do not use the yellow one on a 9-volt battery. Only use it on a maximum of 5 volts.